How to negotiate like a lawyer. There are many tricks to negotiating like a lawyer, and I'm going to try to go through a couple of them. For over 30 years, I've negotiated with tough lawyers and insurance companies, often involving multi-million-dollar cases. And I am often asked, what is the trick to negotiating on these high-profile, high-dollar cases? So let's talk about how to be a good negotiator. Contrary to popular belief, it's not necessarily being tough or a good talker or even a good salesperson. In my experience, it has to do with leverage and risk. It's 90% leverage and risk. So what is leverage and risk? Let me give you an example. Let's talk about former Minnesota Twin Kirby Puckett and his negotiations for a new contract many years ago. Kirby Puckett was a Minnesota Twin who was known for his love of the game. He loved to play baseball. But he was also the top hitter in Major League Baseball by average, and the Twins fans loved him. He was their star player and important to the entire state of Minnesota. When it came time to negotiate a new contract with the Twins management felt that they could offer him a very low amount because they knew Kirby would play baseball for free if he had to. He loved the game so much. Knowing this, and knowing that he wanted to stay in Minnesota for his entire career, they made him a very low ball offer, far less than other players of his abilities, and they knew he would probably take the low offer. And in fact, it was true, Kirby wanted to take the offer, and he wanted to stay in Minnesota. But Kirby had a famous agent, who would later be played by Tom Cruise in the famous movie Jerry Maguire, quote, "Show me the money." And this agent, Jerry Maguire, was in a bind to try and get Kirby a decent and fair offer. So we thought of how to get Kirby's contract negotiated under these circumstances. They had no leverage, and he could show the Twins no risk of losing Kirby, so he had nowhere to go. He knew that they needed some leverage and to show the Twins some risk on their part. So he told Kirby he needed to talk to other teams, and Kirby didn't want to do that. But he finally convinced Kirby to do it, and Kirby was sad, but he flew out to Boston to meet with the Red Sox. The Red Sox rolled out the red carpet and made him a great offer, far more than the Twins' offer. This offer was the leverage the agent needed. And now the Twins had to face the risk of losing their star player and most of their fans probably as well. It would be unforgivable to let Kirby go to another team. So the agent took this offer, this leverage, and went back to the Twins and said that they risked losing him to Boston. He said, look, Kirby wants to stay here. He loves Minnesota, but Boston will pay much more and he needs to think of his family's future. If you aren't able to match that amount or come really close to it, he's going to have to go to Boston. Now that Kirby and his agent had leverage and could show risk, guess what? The Twins paid him. Let me take another example of leverage and risk. One of my son's friends recently called me and asked me, how do I ask for a raise at my job? How do I negotiate that? My first thought was, do you have any leverage? I asked, are you valuable to the business? Are you indispensable to them? If you threaten to leave unless you get a raise, what would happen? You have other job offers with similar businesses at this time. The young man could not answer any of these questions. No wonder he didn't know how to negotiate because he had no leverage and there was no risk to his employer. Now consider this. The young man knows that he's close to indispensable. He knows it's hard to find other candidates to replace him in the employment market. He's talked to 2 other companies and they offer him jobs making more money. How easy would it then be for him to negotiate a better salary or raise? He would just say, gee, I would love to stay here and work, but I really need a raise to stay because I know my value is higher at other employers. And the risk to his employer is now clear. They could lose him, even worse, to a competitor. So in every situation of negotiation, you must find leverage and show risk to the other side. The greater the risk to the other side, the more chance you're going to resolve it. When I have cases and I tell the other side that we want $1 million, but if we go to court, I'm going to ask for $50 million, they see risk. They cannot afford to pay $50 million, and a jury might do that. So the risk to the insurance company is that I might get more than the $1 million I'm asking for. When I go to buy a car, I don't go to just one dealer. I go to several places and get prices. Only after that do I go to my local dealer to negotiate. At that point, I can say, hey, I want to stay local. I love your dealership, but the car is far cheaper at this other dealer in the Twin Cities, for instance. Match the price, and I will stay here locally with you, or at least come close to the price. And if they won't do that, I go to the dealer with the best price. I have to do that. So the final part I want to say to you is that you have to be willing to use your leverage if negotiations fail. Kirby had to be prepared to go to Boston if the Twins didn't come close. My friend wanting the raise had to be willing to quit the job and work somewhere else. I had to be ready to buy my car somewhere else and not at the local dealer. You have to be willing to use your leverage should negotiations fail, which can be scary. But if you don't do that, you're going to lose credibility and the entire ability to negotiate in the future. So before you negotiate, find your leverage, figure out what the risk is to the other party, and then negotiate, and you'll have much greater success.